What's up, everybody? I'm going to give it a few minutes here and allow some people to get online with me. Okay, so tonight's a little bit different. DebraSue, first of all, Glass City Talent 419 and the Toledo to the World studio. We're going to talk about some things tonight that just need to be said, right? uh, we are going to talk about some of the things that are happening in Toledo, and we're going to get your input. Going to see if you have something to say. But tonight I'm flying solo, so if I get a little bit lost in transit, charge it to my head, not my heart, okay? Because it's all good intent. But tonight we're going to talk about um, something that's not unique. It's nothing that I made up. It's nothing that I've decided that I'm going to talk about and that other people are not talking about. It isn't new. All over Toledo and across the world, people are talking about violence, right? In particular, young people and young people violence and young people issues of being unalived and having violence perpetrated against them, right? So let's talk about it. While Toledo officials have made efforts to reduce overall crimes against and by young people, teens in particular, are on the rise. I got a couple of statistics online, so I didn't fact check them, but I'm going to tell you that I pulled these up online, and I think some of these might be of interest to you. According to recent stats in Area Vibes, check these stats out. Toledo, Ohio has a crime rate of 83% or higher than the national average. And violent crimes are 214% higher. The odds of becoming a victim of crime are 1 in 24, and that was as of December 24th, 2024. Excuse me, December 12th, 2024. Some of the names that have been in the news recently in Toledo, and not just in Toledo, but across the world, actually, because recent crimes have actually garnered the attention of major news media outlets like the ones we've seen, right? I'm not gonna name them here, but they've been on national news. We have the young man, the 18-year-old young man, Mr. Simmons, who was dragged, however you want to pronounce that word, but he was in the process of trying to do some shoe sales or what have you, and a 17 year old and a 16-year-old who were just recently arrested, by the way, have been charged in that particular crime. And young Mr. Simmons has um, unfortunately met his demise because of that situation. We also have our 13-year-old Kamani. Kamani, as we know, Kamani Latig, she was 13 years old who suffered a violent attack from a family member. And we saw how the city of Toledo actually showed up and showed out for her to honor her on her birthday, with cards and bears and everything else that you could imagine, candles that were placed at the site of that horrific crime to honor and bring homage to that young lady. These other names might sound familiar to you: Kamarion Wilder, Kayshawn Pittman. In fact, the Attorney General's page, believe it or not, you can go to www, the Ohio General's page, cites 813 pages of missing children. Now, we talked about the violence that has happened and that's going on currently, but there are 813 pages of missing children in Ohio alone. Now, some of those could be more, some could be less, because they get their statistics from the National Crime Information Center. So, some children may have been found, some may not, but 813 pages of missing children leaves one to ponder, where are these kids? What happened to them? Did they run away? Did they disappear? What happened to the children? So, yeah, that's just one statistic that is also quite concerning. Um, we're looking for answers. We're looking for answers. From my understanding, the city of Toledo has put into play um, the pleading for Ohio citizens to step forward and to give them some ideas as to how we need to try and address this situation. We need to look for possible causes for the issue. And some of those causes, and we've talked about these in some meetings, would be poverty, lack of resources, and exposure to violence. We see social media pages filled with images of support at vigils, marches, and demands for change. But what happens? Do we become complacent because we see these things and we don't see anything changing? It could possibly be. But the real issue is that government cannot change evil intent. No matter how many laws we instill, no matter how many changes we try to enact, when people are set out to exhibit behavior or a violent behavior on another individual, if we're not in that place and in that space at that time to stop it, then chances are is that it's going to happen. Um, it cannot change the pedophile behavior that some people exhibit because they themselves suffered that very same crime while they were growing up. You know, some behavior is a learned behavior, and some things that should seem like it should be common sense for most of us, that you just don't do certain things to other individuals. That's just not the case. And so, you know, we have not just a systemic problem, but we have a moral problem. We have a, you know, religious problem. Somebody asked me the other day, where are the churches? You know, where are the ministers that should be standing up? Where where are folks? And I say that to the same thing. Where is anybody? Where is everybody? Have we become so complacent that we just hear of these situations happening day in and day out to the point that we have just decided that, well, what can we do about it? Nothing can be done about it. Are we that complacent? Is that what's happening? Are we at the point where we just we say we can't do anything about it? We throw our hands up because we can't do anything about it? That shouldn't be. That shouldn't be the case. So I guess what I want to say to everyone who's listening on the page tonight is that we have to get involved to figure out how we are to handle certain things in our own community. You know, we can't leave everything up to the authorities to figure out. We can't leave everything up to someone else to fix. You know, in my day, and I'm going to say something that probably sounds familiar to a whole lot of you. You know, back in the day, neighbors cared about each other. They cared about the kids. The neighbors were a process of helping to raise the kids. When you walked to school, you know, the neighbors watched you to school. When you had bad behavior, your teachers would you know, let your parents know, and you'd get in trouble at school. And they don't have discipline in school anymore. In fact, you would really be surprised at some of the behavior with some of the children that are in schools nowadays, because you know, we watch children that are you know, that have enough gumption to actually turn around and fight an adult, you know, to jump on an adult. And for what? Because they got their phone took. Because they got their phone took. Or you know, we see the children who actually just videotape every act of violence instead of getting involved. They don't have to put hands on, but you know, to go and get another adult or to report situations. Instead, everybody is videotaping on a phone. And you know what? The children aren't just doing that alone. You see people, adults do it. Adults do it when acts of violence occur, you know, where they are, whether it's in a club or a restaurant. Or, you know, I think just last week they had a restaurant incident over off Monroe, over near the mall, where, you know, violence was being perpetrated on inside the restaurant, and it's being videotaped. And I'm pretty sure the young lady that was in the car did contact the police in that situation. But yeah, where is our responsibility? Are we scared to get involved? Are we scared to say, hey, something needs to be done here? I mean, what is the issue that we are now seeing the acts of violence that we see, not just from adults, not just from young people, but from society in general? Do we just look at that and say, well, throw our hands up, nothing can be done about that? That's not the case. That should not be the case. It can't be the case It cannot be the case that we are going to do that and expect change. You know, I have a friend in the city who says, and some of you are going to understand who this is when I say it. Nothing changes when nothing changes. And the status quo seems to be that nothing is going to change, and that's got to change. Number one, our mindset and our behavior have to change with regard to what has become acceptable in society and what has not become acceptable in society. And I don't want the young people out there looking at me as if, oh, Miss Deborah does not know what she's talking. You know what? So, sometimes older people, we care, believe it or not, and I'm not even going to be on that hypocritical mode and tell you that we haven't done some things that maybe in our teenage years we probably should have gotten racked for. Okay, but and we did. We really, really did, because we had discipline in schools. We had discipline, multi levels of discipline in the home, and neighbors and people who would stand up and try to have some type of positive influence on us as young people. And unfortunately, we have lost a lot of that. Our neighborhoods are so broken up, and our society has been, broken up in so many different areas. And one young man told me we don't even know our own neighbors anymore. So, with that being said, I kind of got off track. So I'm going to try and get back into onto my talk here, because I really did want to address some things with everybody, and I had some statistics pulled up here. I'm gonna try and pull them back up here before I get lost. Because one thing, if anybody knows about DebraSue, is that I will talk, because I am definitely a talker. I will talk, and I like to get into conversations, and I love debate, and I love looking for answers, and I like, this is something that I enjoy doing. But let me get back to where I was supposed to be. One of the things I think that we absolutely must address is the misnomer that our government can fix everything, because our government cannot fix everything. Okay, we have to hold people and institutions to accountability, to a level of accountability. Yes, that's true. We have to do that. And that's what's being done right now in the city of Toledo. There are several initiatives in the city of Toledo that folks are putting together, that they are trying to address the idea of accountability, not just from, let's say, the child services institutions, but from governments as well. Because let's face it, and we're going to say it in Kamani's case, these babies are slipping through the system. They're slipping through, they're getting overlooked, and unfortunately, they're getting unalived in some instances, for example, in Kamani's case, okay? So we have to maybe look to change the legislature. We have to, and that's happening in Toledo. I did see online where there are several groups, including the Toledo Collective, that are putting initiatives together, and the Kamani initiative is one of them, that they're looking to institute some type of changes in law so that children are more protected. If you think about it, grown people, for grown women, when grown women are violated and they go to, let's say, a medical facility in Toledo, immediately they have certain tests performed on them, and arrest warrants are issued for the known perpetrator. They get protective orders. Our children, unfortunately, don't get those rights. They are in these homes day after day, week after week, sometimes year after year, and they have complained, and they have had teachers who have stepped in and who have said something, and unfortunately, they do slip through the cracks. And we realize that things are hard on the system. We do lack a sufficient amount of workers in some institutions. We get that, but that's no excuse. That's no excuse for us to turn a blind eye and not help these kids in some type of way, whether it's an institution or it's a society or it's a neighbor. And that brings me to the point that I would like to say, that if you are a neighbor, if you're in an apartment building, if you are right next door, if you are a friend, if you're a friend of a child or a friend that's being abused, do you keep it on the hush? Or do you tell a responsible adult? Do you tell someone? Or do we wait until it's too late to say something and try to get a child some help? Hey, Jonathan, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Yes, make it make sense. There's no level of accountability. I'm in agreement with you, sis. I'm I think there used to be, and I think there is some level somewhere, but the system is crying out that there's no level of accountability. Who is to answer for what is happening here? We can't blame everything on the kids. And let's face it, when kids get to be 13, 14, 15, they can be difficult. We all were. And that's what I think some of us as adults tend to overlook, is that teenagers are going to be difficult in their teenage years. How do we handle that? Do we lash out at them properly? Do we punish them properly? Or do we, allow and see certain things happen to young people that should not happen to young people and not say anything? So give me some comments below and tell me what you all think, because we're looking for answers. I don't have all the answers. I have a few I'd like to see. We want to initiate some change. We want to talk about, you know, changing policy and procedure. We want to talk about maybe some better accountability in the school system, at that level. We don't know, but one thing is for certain, is that when you get together and you talk about things, somewhere in this community of talking, some red, some white, green, yellow, some light will pop on and something is going to make sense. But we got to talk about it. We've got to come together as community people and talk about these things and say, hey, what can be done? We don't want to place blame. Blame is, when it comes to institutions, placing blame is almost not really going to be the answer, because so much that we just can't do. Let me look at some of these comments here. Let's see here. Let's got this thing right over your comment here. Let's take a poke here. Okay. When the problem is actually the adults, okay, the problem is actually adults, it's not the kids. Adults have failed this generation. And I am in complete agreement with you. I am. I kind of felt like accountability went out with the generation right after mine, because we had a high level of accountability on every level. It wasn't just the adults, it wasn't the kids had accountability, the schools had accountability, the neighborhood had accountability, we still had discipline in schools. We had you stay on the weekend all day with your parents, or whatever. There was a punishment system. And now there was a level of respect that kids would give parents, almost out of fear of disappointment, and out of fear of losing privilege, right? No timeout, none of that stuff existed back in our day. Okay. But then came along other things that would take our kids' attention and get them off of our minds or out of our hair, and then we kind of let them go at that, and now it's just gone too far, because they don't listen to too much of what adults have to say. And trust me, I'm not putting all kids in this category. Don't think that I am, because I'm not. We got some really good kids out here, but then we also have this bad influence of children who are showing other children the improper way to behave. Okay. And so a lot of it, to be honest with you, is because there's no discipline in the home. How can children learn how to respect authority when they don't respect authority in their own home? And you know who's to blame for that? Parents. Your parents are to blame for that. If you are not showing your children that they cannot just live any way they want to live under your roof, you're to blame as to how they act outside of your home, because how they act in your home is exactly how they're going to act at school. And we can see this. This is evident in children 4, 5, 6, 7 years old who go to school and say what they want to adults. They don't listen to adults, and they're not afraid of adults even at that age, which means to me they're probably acting up at home too, and they're not getting disciplined for it. We're in a modern age where saying anything and doing anything is funny on the internet, out of a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old. It's not funny. It's not funny. If you think it's funny and if you think it's cute, you wait until they turn 11, 12, 13, and then see how funny you think it is. It's not funny. We have got to instill better um how do I want to say this without sounding old school? We've got to do better at instilling better principles in our kids. Okay. And I'm not talking about trying to have them, be upright and Miss Goody, Mr. and Mrs. Goody Two Shoes, but I'm saying principles that you didn't harm other people. You didn't put your hands on other people's kids. You didn't steal from other people. You respected adults. Okay. You did what you were told to meet a certain grade level. When something happened, you had responsible adults that you could go and talk to, and you weren't afraid to say something. Or because, if you knew something back in our day and you didn't tell, you were just as guilty as the person who was perpetrating the crime. My folks used to say you're guilty by the association that you keep. So, that's just a very small part of what I'm trying to present to you all tonight. Let me pull up my document. I've been trying to pull it up now for a minute or two, but I guess what I want to ask you guys is, what's the solution? Give me some of what would you like to see done to help curb some of this lack of accountability that we have in our system? Because I am a part of that Toledo collective, and we've been meeting for a couple weeks now. We're looking to make some legislative change to how things can change as far as accountability is concerned, with how we are tending to our young people and how we're going to try to enforce stronger laws to help protect them. So what do you think? Give me your input. Let me know what you think about this, okay? Because what you tell me tonight is what I'm going to take back to the meeting on Monday, and just to get an idea. And I know three of you that are on don't even live in Toledo. You're not even in Toledo. And I know for a certain fact that one of the group leaders that is part of our group, couples them, and including the group leader, don't even live in Toledo, and even they are concerned about what is happening here. So that should say a lot to all of us, to be honest with you. And some of you probably have relatives far, far away who hear about Toledo. I've even read on Facebook some people move away to Toledo and they say they'll never come back. And this just kind of enforces why they feel the way that they do, why they don't want to come back, why they don't want to be in Toledo. Now, me, I love my city. I love my city. And those of you who know me, you know how much I do in my city. And I'm one of those people, I stand 10 toes down and I try to say, hey, let's stay here because we can make this thing work. We can make things work. But do we sit back on our hands and watch the news every night and see all these awful things happen and do nothing about it? Some things, people don't want to stand in the face of danger. I get that. But what about in your own household? What about in your own neighborhood? What is it that you can do if you don't, get that involved? And this has nothing to do with politics, trust me. It has to do with our kids. It has to do with society. It has to do with your neighborhood. What are you doing? What do you feel like you could do? What do you feel like could be initiated to help affect change that is going to help our kids stay safe, to be safer, to help our institutions be able to work more effectively and efficiently when it comes to trying to protect individuals in the home. Okay, so that's what I want to know. That's what everybody wants to know. We're all looking. A lot of us have really good answers or some good ideas, but who knows about it? Who are we talking to? Right now, we have initiatives in the city of Toledo, and our authorities are asking for your help. They're asking to get on these commissions. They're holding open seats for folks who want to get in and give ideas. And you can always go and talk to your district person and say, hey, I have some ideas. Where's the next community meeting? Do we have community meetings? Can I have a community meeting? And then call your council person to that meeting and then express your ideas to that council person. Okay? They want to hear you. They want to hear you. Trust me. We had a meeting here, and our councilwoman came here and she listened intently to the concerns of about 12, 13 different people. Okay. And my hope is that she took some of that back to the authorities that be in the city of Toledo to try and help initiate some change, because it wasn't too long after that we saw that the mayor was opening up positions for people to come and serve on certain boards, board oversights on boards. So that's it. Try to get involved. I have said that, get involved, get involved. The last thing that I want to say, because I'm at the 6:24 hour, and it would be less than responsible of me if I didn't say this. Young ladies and young men too, Please stop bringing people into your home that you do not know. Stop letting your children allow around people that you have not known and you don't know their history. Do not allow them to go to people's homes that you do not know. And even more importantly, within your own family realm, teach your children stranger danger, even in your own family realm. Kamani was unalived by her dad. Okay. And so many other instances across America, this type of violence is happening right in the family. Or we have young women who will leave home and leave their children with their boyfriend or significant other, and something tragic happens. Do not allow people into your home, up under you, and around your babies that you do not know. Be more responsible towards your kids instead of wanting to be more involved in a personal relationship. Get involved in your kids' lives and keep them safe. And if you know that there's a perpetrator in your family realm or in your friend or somewhere around you, make sure you watch your kids and you're in their lives on a daily basis. Okay? Because some things that happen to us, you guys, are brought on by ourselves and our own selfish desires. We've got to overcome that. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this particular presentation, we can change a lot of things, but we can't change hearts, and we can't change mindsets, and we can't change past behaviors of what other people have gone through, who will for some reason, unfortunate reason, inflict that pain on another person because they're dealing with trauma. So that's all I want to say, because we have a lot of issues, and some of it we can solve ourselves right within our own household. So now, that being said, if you have any suggestions you'd like me to hear about, because when I have really significant, even not so significant, okay, these thoughts and ideas are shared at our community meetings. And so if you have something that you'd like to say, if you have an idea that you'd like to share, um, please post them. I'll be more than happy to respond to you if you need me to, but I'd like to go ahead and take this information and move it forward. And in the meantime, there are initiatives on Facebook and outside of Facebook. If you can get involved, I think there's one initiative that has received over 4,000 signatures already, and it's already at the state level, for someone to look at and to try to get it enacted into law. The Toledo Collective is also working on a Kamani initiative, and there's others out there. It's unfortunate they had to take this particular incident to make some of this move forward, but it's here now. So let's not be blind to it. Let's work with it and see if we can affect change at that level. And if we can't, by all means, try to make change at your own level. Get involved in your neighborhood. Make your place a safe place for kids. Make safe places for children. And by all means, if you have a child that's reaching out for help, figure out how you can help. Figure out how you can help. You need to stay safe yourself, but figure out how you can help as well. Okay. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm solo dolo tonight. And it's not a new subject. Everybody is kind of talking about it, but we need to be real on how we're going to address this stuff too. We need to be, factual with each other, and we need to stand toe to toe with each other and say, hey, there are things that we can do within our own community and our own households, and with each other, to kind of curb some of this. And a lot of it, to be honest with you, is personal behavior. Got to get a hold of our kids. We got to, put the discipline back where it belongs, but also definitely put the authority where it belongs too. So that's all I wanted to say. All right, everybody, we are at the 6:29 hour. I'm not going to hold you any longer. I would try to put some of my notes down below. You can agree with me. You can choose to disagree with me. That's perfectly okay. Everybody's opinion is important, but an opinion should actually affect change. And if we can't affect change, then our opinion is just that. It's just another opinion. So let's make some changes. We'll see you next week. You have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend, and keep the babies safe. Keep each other safe. Talk to you later. Bye bye. Next Thursday.